Om Om Tat Savituravaram Rupam Jyotih Parasya Dhimahi Yanna Satyena Deepayet Satyena Deepayet Om Tat Savituravaram Rupam Jyotih Parasya Dhimahi Yanna Satyena Deepayet Satyena Deepayet.
Book 2. The Book of the Traveler of the Worlds. Canto 8. The World of Falsehood, the Mother of Evil, and the Sons of Darkness. Then could he see the hidden heart of night, the labor of its dark unconsciousness, reveal the endless, terrible inane. A spiritless, blank infinity was there, a nature that denied the eternal truth. In the vain braggart freedom of its thought, hoped to abolish God and reign alone. There was no soaring guess, no witness light. Unhelped, it would create its own bleak world. Its large blind eyes looked out on demon acts. Its deaf ears heard the untruth, its dumb lips spoke. Its huge misguided fancy took vast shapes. Its mindless sentience quivered with fierce conceits, engendering a brood principle of life, evil, and pain begot a monstrous soul. The anarchs of the formless depths arose, great titan beings and demoniac powers, world egos racked with lust and thought and will, vast minds and lives without a spirit within, impatient architects of error's house, leaders of the cosmic ignorance and unrest and sponsors of sorrow and mortality, embodied the dark ideas of the abyss. A shadow substance into emptiness came. Dim forms were born in the unthinking void, and eddies met and made an adverse space, in whose black folds being imagined hell.
His eyes piercing the triple-plated gloom, identified their sights with its blind stare. Accustomed to the unnatural dark they saw, unreality made real unconscious night, a violent, fierce, and formidable world, an ancient worm of huge calamitous dream, coiled like a larva in the obscurity that keeps it from the spear points of heaven's stars. It was the gate of a false infinite, an eternity of disastrous absolute, an immense negation of spiritual things, all one self-luminous in the spirit sphere, turned now into their own dark contraries, being collapsed into a pointless void that yet was a zero parent of the worlds. Inconscience, swallowing up the cosmic mind, produced a universe from its lethal sleep, bliss into black coma fallen, insensible, called back to itself and God's eternal joy, through a false poignant figure of grief and pain, still dolorously nailed upon a cross, fixed in the soil of dumb insentient world, where birth was a pang and death an agony, lest all too soon should change again to bliss.
Thought sat, a priestess of perversity, on her black tripod of the Triune snake, reading by opposite signs the eternal script. A sorceress reversing life's God frame, in darkling easels with evil eyes for lamps, and fatal voices chanting from the apse, in strange, infernal, dim basilicas, intoning the magic of the unholy word, the ominous, profound initiate performed the ritual of her mysteries. There, suffering was nature's daily food, alluring to the anguished heart and flesh, and torture was the formula of delight. Pain mimicked the celestial ecstasy. There, good, a faithless gardener of God, watered with virtue the world's upas tree, and, careful of the outward word and act, engrafted his hypocrite blooms on native ill. All high things served their neither opposite. The forms of gods sustained a demon cult. Heaven's face became a mask and snare of hell. There, in the heart of vain phenomenon, in an enormous action's writhen core, he saw a shape, illimitable and vague, sitting on death, who swallows all things born. A chill fixed face, with dire and motionless eyes, her dreadful trident in her shadowy hand outstretched, she pierced all creatures with one fate.
When nothing was save matter without soul, and a spiritless hollow was the heart of time, then life first touched the insensible abyss, awaking the stark void to hope and grief. Her pallid beam smote the unfathomed night, in which God hid himself from his own view. In all things she sought their slumbering mystic truth, the unspoken word that inspires unconscious forms. She groped in his deeps for an invisible law, fumbled in the dim subconscious for his mind, and strove to find a way for spirit to be. But from the night another answer came. A seed was in that nether matrix cast, a dumb, unprobed husk of perverted truth, a cell of an insentient infinite. A monstrous birth prepared its cosmic form in nature's titan embryo ignorance.
Then in a fatal and stupendous hour, something that sprang from the stark inconscient sleep, unwillingly begotten by the mute void, lifted its ominous head against the stars. Overshadowing earth with its huge body of doom, it chilled the heavens with the menace of a face. A nameless power, a shadowy will arose, immense and alien to our universe. In the inconceivable purpose none can gauge, a vast non-being robed itself with shape, the boundless nescience of the unconscious depths, covered eternity with nothingness. A seeking mind replaced the seeing soul. Life grew into a huge and hungry death. The spirit's bliss was changed to cosmic pain. Assuring God's self-cowled neutrality, a mighty opposition conquered space. A sovereign ruling falsehood, death and grief, it pressed its fierce hegemony on the earth, disharmonizing the original style of the architecture of her fate's design. It falsified the primal cosmic will, and bound to struggle and dread vicissitudes, the long, slow process of the patient power. Implanting error in the stuff of things, it made an ignorance of the all-wise law. It baffled the sure touch of life's hid sense, kept dumb the intuitive guide in matter's sleep, deformed the insect's instinct and the brute's, disfigured man's thought-born humanity.
A shadow fell across the simple ray. Obscured was the truth, light in the cavern heart that burns unwitnessed in the altar crypt, behind the still vehement secrecy, companioning the godhead of the shrine. Thus was the dire antagonist, energy born, who mimes the eternal mother's mighty shape and mocks her luminous infinity. With a grey, distorted shilauti in the night, arresting the passion of the climbing soul, she forced on life a slow and faltering pace. Her hands, deflecting and retarding weight, is laid on the mystic evolution's curve, the tortuous line of her deceiving mind. The gods see not, and man is impotent. Oppressing the God spark within the soul, she forces back to the beast the human fall. Yet in her formidable instinctive mind, she feels the one grow in the heart of time, and sees the immortal shine through the human mold. Alarmed for her rule, and full of fear and rage, she prowls around each light that gleams through the dark, casting its ray from the spirit's lonely tent, hoping to enter with fierce, stealthy tread, and in the cradle slay the divine child. Incalculable are her strength and ruse. Her touch is a fascination and a death. She kills her victim with his own delight. Even good she makes a hook to drag to hell. For her, the world runs to its agony.
Often the pilgrim on the Eternal's road, ill-lit from clouds by the pale moon of mind, or in devious byways wandering alone, or lost in deserts where no path is seen, falls overpowered by her lion leap, a conqueror captive under her dreadful pass, intoxicated by a burning breath, and amorous groan of a destroying mouth. Once a companion of the sacred fire, the mortal perishes to God and light. An adversary governs heart and brain, a nature hostile to the mother force. The self of life yields up its instruments to titan and demonic agencies that aggrandize earth, nature, and this frame. A cowled fifth columnist is now thought's guide. His subtle, defeatious murmur slays the faith, and lodged in the breast or whispering from outside. A lying inspiration fell and dark. A new order substitutes for the divine. A silence falls upon the spirit's heights. From the veiled sanctuary the god retires. Empty and cold is the chamber of the bride. The golden nimbus now is seen no more. No longer burns the white spiritual ray, and hushed forever is the secret voice. Then by the angel of the vigil tower, a name is struck from the recording book. A flame that sang in heaven sings quenched and mute. In ruin ends the epic of a soul. This is the tragedy of the inner death, when forfeited is the divine element, and only a mind and body live to die.
For terrible agencies the spirit allows, and there are subtle and enormous powers that shield themselves with the covering ignorance. Offspring of the gulfs, agents of the shadowy force, haters of light, intolerant of peace, aping to the thought the shining friend and guide, opposing in the heart the eternal will, they veil the occult uplifting harmonist. His wisdom's oracles are made our bonds. The doors of God they have locked with the keys of creed, and shut out by the law his tireless grace. Along all nature's lines they have set their posts and intercept the caravans of light. Wherever the gods act, they intervene. A yogi is laid upon the world's dim heart. Masked are its beats from the supernal bliss, and the closed peripheries of brilliant mind block the fine entries of celestial fire. Always the dark adventurers seem to win. Nature they fill with evil's institutes, turn into defeats the victories of truth, proclaim as falsehoods the eternal laws, and load the dice of doom with bizarre lies. The world's shrines they have occupied, usurped its thrones, in scorn of the dwindling chances of the gods. They claim creation as their conquered fief, and crown themselves the iron lords of time. Adepts of the illusion and the mask, the artificers of nature's fall and pain, have built their altars of triumph and night in the clay temple of terrestrial life. In the vacant precincts of the sacred fire, in front of the reed rose in the mystic rite, facing the dim velamen none can pierce, intones his solemn hymn the mitred priest, invoking their dreadful presence is his breast. Attributing to them the awful name, he chants the syllables of the magic text, and summons the unseen communion's act, while twixt the incense and the muttered prayer, all the fierce bale with which the world is racked is mixed in the foaming chalice of man's heart, and poured to them like sacramental wine. Assuming names divine, they guide and rule.
Opponents of the highest they have come, out of their world of soulless thought and power, to serve by enmity the cosmic scheme. Night is their refuge and strategic base. Against the sword of flame, the luminous eye. Destined they live in massive forts of gloom, calm and secure in sunless privacy. No wandering ray of heaven can enter there, armored, protected by their lethal mass. As in a studio of creative death, the giant sons of darkness sit and plan the drama of the earth, their tragic stage. All who would raise the fallen world must come under the dangerous arches of their power, for even the radiant children of the gods to darken their privileges and dreadful right. None can reach heaven who has not passed through hell.
This too the traveller of the worlds must dare, a warrior in the dateless dual strife. He entered into dumb despairing night, challenging the darkness with his luminous soul. Alarming with his steps the threshold gloom, he came into a fierce and dolorous realm, peopled by souls who never had tasted bliss, ignorant like men, born blind, who know not light. They could equate worst ill with highest good. Virtue was to their eyes a face of sin, and evil and misery were their natural state. A dire administration's penal code, making of grief and pain the common law, degrading universal joylessness, had changed life into a stoic sacrament and torture into a daily festival.
An act was passed to chastise happiness. Laughter and pleasure were banned as deadly sins. A questionless mind was ranked as wise content, a dull heart silent apathy as peace. Sleep was not there, torpor was the sole rest. Death came, but neither respite gave nor end. Always the soul lived on and suffered more. Ever he deeper probed that kingdom of pain. Around him grew the terror of a world of agony followed by worse agony. And in the terror a great wicked joy. glad of one's own and others' calamity.
Their thought and life were a long punishment, the breath a burden and all hope a scourge, the body a field of torment, a massed unease. Repose was a waiting between pang and pang. This was the law of things none dreamed to change. A hard, sombre heart, a harsh, unsmiling mind, rejected happiness like a cloying sweet. Tranquility was a tedium and ennui. Only by suffering life grew colorful. It needed the spice of pain, the salt of tears. If one could cease to be, all would be well. Else only fierce sensations gave some zest, a fury of jealousy burning the gnawed heart, the sting of murderous spite and hate and lust, the whisper that lures to the pit and treachery stroke, threw vivid spots on the dull aching hours.
To watch the drama of infelicity, the writhing of creatures under the harrow of doom, and sorrow's tragic gaze into the night, and horror and the hammering heart of fear, were the ingredients in time's heavy cup that pleased and helped to enjoy its bitter taste. Of such fierce stuff was made up life's long hell. These were the threads of the dark spider's web in which the soul was caught, querying and wrapped. This was religion, this was nature's rule. In a fell chapel of iniquity, to worship a black pitiless image of power. Kneeling, one must cross hard-hearted stony codes, a pavement like a floor of evil fate. Each stone was a keen edge of reckless force, and glued with the chilled blood from tortured breasts. The dry gnarled trees stood up like dying men, stiffened into a pose of agony, and from each window peered an ominous priest, chanting Te Deums for slaughter's crowning grace. Uprooted cities, blasted human homes, burned written bodies, the bombshells massacre.
Our enemies are fallen, they sang. All who once stayed our will are smitten and dead. How great we are, how merciful art thou. Thus thought they to reach God's impassive throne, and him command whom all their acts opposed, magnifying their deeds to touch his skies, and make him an accomplice of their crimes. There no relenting pity could have place, but ruthless strength and iron moods had sway. A dateless sovereignty of terror and gloom, this took the figure of a darkened God, revered by the racked wretchedness he had made, who held in thrall a miserable world, and helpless hearts nailed to unceasing awe, adored the feet that trampled them into mire.
It was a world of sorrow and of hate, sorrow with hatred for its lonely joy, hatred with others' sorrow as its feast, a bitter rictus curled the suffering mouth, a tragic cruelty saw its ominous chance. Hate was a black archangel of that realm. It glowed, a somber jewel in the heart, burning the soul with its malignant rays, and wallowed in its fell abysm of might. These passions even objects seemed to exude, for mind overflowed into the inanimate, that answered with the wickedness it received. Against the users used malignant powers, hurt without hands, and strangely, suddenly slew, appointed as instruments of an unseen doom. Or they made themselves a fateful prison wall, where men condemned wake through the creeping hours, counted by the tollings of an ominous bell. An evil environment worsened evil souls. All things were conscious there, and all perverse. In this infernal realm he dared to press, even into its deepest pit and darkest core, perturbed its tenebrous base, dared to contest its ancient privileged right and absolute force. In night he plunged to know her dreadful heart. In hell he sought the root and cause of hell. Its anguished gulfs opened in his own breast. He listened to clamors of its crowded pain, the heart beats of its fatal loneliness.
Above was a chill, deaf eternity, in vague, tremendous passages of doom. He heard the goblin voice that guides to stay, and faced the enchantments of the demon sign, and traversed the ambush of the opponent sneak.
In menacing tracts, in tortured solitudes, companionless he roamed through desolate ways, where the red wolf waits by the fordless stream, and death's black eagles scream to the precipice, and met the haunts of Baal who hunt men's hearts, baying across the worlds of destiny in fruitless battlefields of the abyss, fought shadowy combats in mute eyeless depths, assaults of hell endured, and titan strokes, and bore the fierce inner wounds that are slow to heal.
A prisoner of a hooded magic force, captured and trailed in falsehood's lethal net, and often strangled in the noose of grief, or cast in the grim morass of swallowing doubt, or shut into pits of error and despair. He drank her poison draughts till none was left.
In a world where neither hope nor joy could come, the ordeal he suffered of Abel's absolute reign, yet kept intact his spirit's radiant truth, incapable of motion or of force. In matters blank, Daniel gold and blind, pinned to the black inertia of our base, he treasured between his hands his flickering soul.
His being ventured into
mindless void, intolerant gulfs that knew not thought nor sense. Thought chased, sense failed, his soul still saw and knew. In atomic parcellings of the infinite, near to the dumb beginnings of lost self.
He felt the curious small futility of the creation of material things, or stifled in the inconsistent hollow dusk. He sounded the mystery dark and bottomless of the enormous and unmeaning deeps, when struggling life in a dead universe rose. There in the stark identity lost by mind, he felt the sealed sense of insensible world, and a mute wisdom in the unknowing night.
Into the abysmal secrecy he came, where darkness pierced from her, mattress grey and nude, and stood on the lost locked subconscious floor, where being slept unconscious of its thoughts, and built the world not knowing what it built.
There, waiting its hour, the future lay unknown. There is the record of the vanished stars. There, in the slumber of the cosmic well, he saw the secret key of nature's change.
A light was with him, an invisible hand was laid upon the era and the pain, till it became a quivering ecstasy, the shock of sweetness of an arm's embrace.
He saw in night the eternal shadowy veil, knew death for a sealer of the house of life, in destruction felt creation's hasty pace, knew loss as the price of a celestial gain, and hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates.
Then in illusion's occult factory, and in the inconscient's magic printing house, torn were the formats of the primal night, and shattered the stereotypes of ignorance.
Alive, breathing a deep spiritual breath, nature expunged her stiff mechanical code, and the article of the bound soul's contract. Falsehood gave back to truth her tortured self.
Unnulled were the tables of the law of pain, and in their place grouped luminous characters. The skillful penman's unseen finger wrote his swift, intuitive calligraphy. Yet forms were made his divine documents. The wisdom embodied mind could not reveal in conscience cast from the world's voiceless breast. Transfigured were the fixed schemes of reasoning thought.
Arousing consciousness in things inert, he imposed upon dark atom and dumb mass the diamond script of the imperishable, inscribed on the dim heart of fallen things, a paying song of the free infinite, and the name, foundation of eternity, and traced on the awake exultant cells in the ideographs of the ineffable, the lyric of the love that waits through time, and the mystic volume of the book of bliss, and the message of the superconscient fire. Then life wait pure in the corporeal frame. The infernal gleam died and could slay no more. Hell split across its huge abrupt facade, as if a magic building were undone. Night opened and vanished like a gulf dream, into being's gap scooped out as empty space, in which she had filled the place of absent God. There poured a wide, intimate, and blissful dawn, healed were all things that time's stone heart had made, and sorrow could live no more in nature's breast. Division ceased to be,
for God was there. The soul lit the conscious body with its ray. Matter and spirit mingled and were one. End of Canto 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Arvindaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aravindaya. Savitri, Book 2, the Book of the Traveller of the Worlds. Canto 9, the Paradise of the Life Gods. Around him shone a great felicitous day, a lustre of some rapturous infinite. It held in the splendor of its golden love regions of the heart's happiness set free. Intoxicated with the wine of God, immersed in light perpetually divine, a favorite and intimate of the gods, obeying the divine command to joy, it was the sovereign of its own delight, and master of the kingdoms of its foes, assured of the bliss for which all forms were made, unmoved by fear and grief and the shocks of fate, and unalarmed by the breath of fleeting time, and unbesieged by adverse circumstance, it breathed in a sweet, secure, unguarded ease, free from our body's frailty, inviting death, far from our danger zone of stumbling will. It needed not to curb its passionate beats, thrilled by the clasp of the warm, satisfied sense, and the swift wonder rush and flame and cry of the life impulses red magnificent rays. It lived in jewel rhythm of the laughter of God, and lay on the breast of universal love. Immune the unfettered spirit of delight, pastured its gleaming sun herds and moon flocks along the lyric speed of griefless streams, in fragrance of the unearthly asphodel.
A silence of felicity tracked the heavens. A careless radiance smiled upon the heights. A murmur of inarticulate ravishment trembled in the winds and touched the enchanted soil. Incessant in the arms of ecstasy, repeating its sweet involuntary note, a soap of rapture flowed along the hours, advancing under an arc of glory and peace, traveller on plateau and on musing ridge, as one who sees in the world magician's class a miracled imagery of souls kept flee. He traversed scene of an immortal joy and gazed into a bosom of beauty and bliss.
Around him was a light of conscious suns, and a brooding gladness of great simple things. To meet him, crowded plains of brilliant calm, mountains and violet valleys of the blessed, deep glens of joy and crooning waterfalls, and woods of quivering purple solitude. Below him lay like gleaming jeweled thoughts, rapt dreaming cities of Gandharva kings.
Across the vibrant secrecies of space, a dim and happy music sweetly stole. Smitten by unseen hands, he heard, heart close, the harp's cry of heavenly minstrels pass, and voices of unearthly melody chanted the glory of eternal love in the wide blue moonbeam air of paradise.
A summit and core of all that marvelous world. Apart stood high Elysian nameless hills, burning like sunsets in a trance of eve, as if to some new unsearched profundity. Into a joyful stillness plunged their base. Their slopes through a hurry of laughter and voices sank, crossed by a throng of singing rivers, adoring blue heaven with their happy hymn, down into woods of shadowy secrecy, lifted into wide voiceless mystery. Their peaks climbed towards a greatness beyond life, the shining Edens of the vital God. received him in their deathless harmonies.
All things were perfect there, that flower in time. Beauty was their creation's nature mold. Peace was here thrilled all Portier's purity. Their love fulfilled her gold and rosy dreams. All strength her crowned and mighty rewards. Desire claimed up a swift omnipotent flame, and pleasure had the stature of the gods.
Dream walked along the highways of the stars. Sweet common things turned into miracles. Overtaken by the spirit's sudden spell, smitten by a divine passion's alchemy, pain self-compelled transformed to potent joy, curing the antithesis twixt heaven and hell. All life's high visions are embodied there, her wandering hopes achieved, her orate combs, caught by the honey-eater's darting tongue, her burning guesses changed to ecstatic truths, her mighty pantings still in deathless calm, and liberated her immense desires in that paradise of perfect heart and sense. No lower note could break the endless charms of her sweetness, ardent and immaculate. Her steps are sure of their intuitive fall. After the anguish of the soul's long strife, at length were found calm and celestial rest, and lapped in a magic flood of sorrowless hours. Healed were his various nature's wounded limbs in the encircling arms of energies that brooked no stain and feared not their own bliss.
In scenes forbidden to our palate sense, amid miraculous scents and wonder hues, he met the forms that divinize the sight to music that can immortalize the mind and make the heart wide as infinity, listened and captured the inaudible. Cadences that awake the occult ear, out of the ineffable hush it hears them come, trembling with the beauty of a wordless speech, and thoughts too great and deep to find a voice, thoughts whose desire new makes the universe, a scale of sense that climbed with fiery feet the heights of unimagined happiness, recast his being's aura in joy glow. His body glimmered like a skyey shell. His gates to the world were swept with seas of light.
Is earth dowered with celestial competence? Harbored a power that needed now no more to cross the closed customs line of mind and flesh and smuggle Godhead into humanity. It shrank no more from the supreme demand of an untired capacity for bliss, a might that could explore its own infinite, and beauty and passion and the depths reply, nor feared the swoon of glad identity, where spirit and flesh in inner ecstasy join, annulling the quarrel between self and shape. It drew from sight and sound spiritual power, made sense a road to reach the intangible. It thrilled with the supernal influences that build the substance of life's deeper soul.
Earth nature stood reborn, comrade of heaven, a fit companion of the timeless kings, equalled with the godheads of the living suns. He mixed in the radiant pastimes of the unborn, heard whispers of the player never seen, and listened to his voice that steals the heart. and draws it to the breast of God's desire, and felt its honey of felicity flow through his veins like the rivers of paradise, made body a nectar cup of the Absolute, in sudden moments of revealing flame, in passionate responses half unveiled, he reached the rim of ecstasies unknown. A touch supreme surprised his hurrying heart. The clasp was remembered of the wonderful, and hints leaped down of white beatitudes. Eternity drew close, disguised as love, and laid its hand upon the body of time. A little gift comes from the immensitudes, but measureless to life its gain of joy. All the untold beyond is mirrored there, a giant drop of the bliss unknowable. Overwhelmed his limbs and round his soul became a fiery ocean of felicity. He foundered, drowned in sweet and burning vast, the dire delight that could shatter mortal flesh, the rapture that the gods sustained he bore. Immortal pleasure cleansed him in its waves, and turned his strength into undying power. Immortality captured time and carried life. End of Canto 9. The Paradise of the Life Gods. Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds.